YouTubers. We are back, and we have the honor of having my meditation and spiritual teacher here, Lauri DeJulian. She is a rock star, to say the very least. We were talking about you this morning, actually, when we were filming Tina and Suzanne, who are on another show, the naturopathic and Chinese medicine doctors. And Lauri has had a profound influence on not only me, but I also think our spiritual community in really helping us find our way back to ourselves and like reconnecting. So Lauri, I'd love to start by, we talk a lot about, I think people come to you when they're suffering anxiety and depression and unfulfillment, and you are able to help people wade through that because you've had some experiences like that in your own life.
Right.
So Lauri, how did you get to where you are doing what you're doing?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say what I'm doing is just basically my own shtick.
Yeah.
And people come in and out of my space, but really I'm just doing my own shtick.
What does that mean?
So what it basically means is I'm having my own experiences.
Yeah.
And so like you and I,
yeah,
that we had a wonderful meeting. Do you remember how we met?
Yes, I do. I came to a women's health talk, and I came to see the health intuitive, and that health intuitive was you. Right. And you ended up sitting right next to me at the table.
I was petrified. It was my first public speaking gig, and you were like, this is going to be so interesting. Actually, I came to see the medical intuitive. Do you know who she is?
Yeah.
And I said, it's me. And I'm scared. Yeah. And so that's how we met.
Yeah.
So I was basically there doing my own experience.
Yeah.
And you and I started to have a conversation. Yeah. And that's pretty much how I see every person that comes to see me. I'm kind of in my own space, somebody walks in and we start a conversation.
So, because you don't define yourself as anything. So I know that people said you're a health intuitive or a meditation teacher or a spiritual teacher.
Or a raving lunatic.
Or a raving lunatic.
I like that one.
But people come to you for guidance to help them find their way.
Right, so what I do is basically, so you asked me how I got here. Yeah. So I spent, 26 years in the financial sector, and my last gig was that I was an area president for a large financial institution, and I was pretty much like everybody else. I was unhappy.
Yeah, because everyone's unhappy most of the time.
Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a fair amount of people in that position.
Yeah.
You think you have everything. You think you have the car. You think you have the house. You think you have the relationship. And you're just really unfulfilled. And for me, one day I just asked why, and I had this huge experience. And I didn't really want the experience. I spent 2 years running from the experience. But basically what happened in a nutshell was I could see all the infinite possibilities, and I could see the lies people tell themselves. Mm. And so when people come to see me, of course I can see the lies they tell themselves right away, but what I can see behind that in a much larger way is the infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
So they come in and they tell me their tales of woe and their suffering, and it's really hard because I'm like, yeah. And I have to hold the space and say, yes, I understand. But you gotta understand, there's something so much sweeter coming.
Yes.
And you were one of those people.
Yes, I was.
Right.
And many people in our community.
Yeah. And so it's a mystical space. And every person that comes to see me is me. I have yet not to meet a person that I can't relate to. Mm-hmm. And whoever shows up is actually bringing a lesson for me. And so we hold the space for each other and we have this discussion. And I open up to divine wisdom, and I let that divine wisdom come through for both of us.
And I know that you've talked a lot about that, how everyone has access to divine wisdom.
Right, and that's really, you said, how do you define yourself? You never really define yourself as anything. I just help people hold space and learn to do that, and to facilitate that. And once that's done, I say, it's time for you to go. Which always makes people like, what? You're kicking me out. Yeah. You don't need me. You don't need me.
Yeah. talk a little bit about this idea that we're all connected. I mean, it's such a fundamental in all spiritual practice of any kind, universal spiritual practice, a big one in A Course in Miracles. But why do we care? Why does it matter?
Well, that can get into many philosophies, obviously, and I could really trip people out by saying, nothing is really real. Everything that you see, you're creating within your own mind.
Yeah.
Similar to the Fight Club, that movie, The Fight Club. But the best way to look at it is we all came from somewhere. Now, I know that there might be people that are atheists out there, and that's okay. I would say to you, you have a higher self, a higher beingness that you listen to and you follow, and you know when you're in it and you're not. When did that begin within you? Okay, so that's what I would say to the atheists. To the rest that believe possibly that there's something out there, where you came from, everyone else came from. And in the way I like to discuss it, I use the word God and universe. When the universe created me, created you too. It didn't say I have leftovers and I'll create Lauri and I'll make a supersonic model and here's Candace, right? So we all came from the same space, and therefore we're always connected to that space. We've never become unconnected. So I'm connected to that space and you came from that space. It would just be logical that you and I are connected and to this grand space.
And this idea of separation, it's an illusion.
Right, that's correct. We all are unique. We have we're all taking, for instance, 125 lessons. I just made that up.
Yeah.
And you're taking lesson 87 and I'm taking lesson 53, but we'll all take the same lesson.
Because it's all universal.
Right.
And I think that's what's so interesting. I was talking to my friend the other day, and she's going through a struggle with her husband, and she's behaving a certain way, and he has an addiction. Right. And I said to her, you know what? I said, don't take it personally, though. I know you're going through crap, but I bet you that there's 20 books that you could find right now and read that would outline how you're behaving right now as part of the pattern. That, like, we all think our experiences are unique to us, but they're actually universal patterns and experiences.
Right. There's no new feelings.
There's no new the details might be different.
Right.
But that's
how you got into that feeling.
Yeah.
But I know what it's like to feel sad, and you know what it's like to feel sad, and you know what it's like to feel abandoned, and I know what it's like to feel abandoned.
Yeah. And
everybody around the world knows what that feels like.
So it's all universal.
And so, when people come in with addictions, they say, well, I'm an addict, and you really don't understand. And I go, oh yeah, I understand. Okay? You and I both have the same feelings. You just choose to do something else. And now we all have that something else we do. Maybe for me, it might be working or eating chocolate.
Yeah.
And for you, it's doing, drugs and alcohol. So we're really not different. It's just how we express ourselves.
So if someone comes to you, and like most people, they come to you with anxiety or depression or unfulfillment, what's step one?
Well, first of all, the first thing I ask is, are you really seeking out a change in your life? And for a lot of people, they say, well, duh, why am I here?
Yeah, because I don't want to feel like this.
It's right. But when we dig deeper, they really don't want to change. They really want to continue to do what they're doing and be happy. And as crazy as that sounds.
That's true, I think.
Right. So you really have to be open to change. And you really have to say, okay, I've got to start thinking a different way and taking on new patterns, because the old patterns are just going to lead me to where I want, to the same place I want to get away from.
Yeah, and I think it's so crucial, because it's kind of like people who are sick just say, but they don't want to change their diet.
Right.
So that's why they don't seek alternative therapies.
Right.
They just want a pill. They want to continue to do what they're doing. It's to say, you want to continue to go to your job, be in the relationship, but you want to feel differently.
Right.
Because the change is too scary, right?
Oh, well, yes, it's too scary. A lot of people say, well, I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
If you can tell me what that looks like and give me specifics, then I can know what I'm moving into. It's the unknown and the familiar, right? I've felt this so long, you know, even though these shoes are really tight and they hurt my feet.
This is what I'm used to.
Right, so I don't know what that would feel like, so I don't know if I'm gonna do that.
I think it's fascinating.
It's amazing.
Isn't it? And it's like, I think it's like, because I think I've learned along the way, because I came to you, I had terrible anxiety and insomnia, is that anxiety is actually, for me, it's not a negative thing anymore. If it starts to creep in, I know something in my life isn't working. It's kind of like a message to like have a look at what's going on, and it's guidance to that something needs to change.
Right, you know, so what I say anxiety really is that you have this blueprint, this master blueprint that you decided on before you came into this world. And it's your divine purpose, your soul's purpose, your higher purpose, whatever you want to call it. And then you have the way you've been living your life, which creates this space between the two. And I call that space anxiety.
Yes. And so the way you're living your life versus what your blueprint is, it could be you're not following your calling in life.
Right, or you're not telling the truth in your life.
You're not telling the truth. So you told, what does that mean? You're not telling the truth?
Well, you know, we do things, well, sometimes we don't even know why we do things, but a lot of the times we know we're just acting out to please others, or we have fear, and so we're not going to stray from the norm. You know, I come from a family of intellectuals. Everybody has a high-level degree. I just went into engineering because that's what my family does.
Right, because you have an engineering degree. You have 2 degrees, don't you?
I have 3 degrees.
3, sorry. Okay.
And none of them I use.
None of it. So it's engineering. What else? Business.
I have an MBA
yes.
in finance, and then I have an accounting degree.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and none of it I use.
Yes.
And so that was the first thing my mother said when I got into this. She says, oh, that college. Just don't do anything that's going to embarrass us. So, yeah.
I think what's an interesting thing is when people start to realize that there's an inner whisper, like that inner guidance, it freaks them out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they kind of see spiritual practice as potentially either some form of religion or as something kind of woo-woo and just cultish.
Yes.
What do you say to that?
Well, it just depends on who I'm talking to, right? I mean, everybody's entitled to whatever they want. But for me, for instance, I knew nobody like me, and I had this awakening, so to speak, and I was searching. Where is this feeling coming from? And I know there's something deeper, and how can I know these things? And so I started exploring different things. And some of it was woo-woo, and some of it was very cultish.
Yeah.
And some of it, but each place that I went, I picked up a little information that helped me become more comfortable. And I spent, I guess, about 4 years looking for a guru or a teacher that could help relieve me. But I never found one. I used to be so pissed off about that. You know, everybody had a teacher but me.
Yeah.
But I did have a teacher.
Yeah.
I had the best teacher there could be that didn't have an ego, that was never going to have an agenda. And at one point I said to the voice that spoke within me, I need a people. You're not a people. I need a people I can sit down, talk, you know, have a cup of coffee with.
Yeah.
And I used to argue all the time. But now I'm so happy because the guidance was never polluted.
Yeah. So you have, I know we've talked about, you feel like you have direct guidance, but that everyone has it.
Absolutely. Everyone has direct guidance. And that's really the thrust of the work that I do.
And that's a spiritual practice, right? Whatever it is, whatever form it is, it's peeling away the layers so that you can actually start to listen to that guidance.
Spiritual practice to me means that I have a set of things that I do that help prepare me to open up into the deepest part of me so I can listen. And that could be chanting, that could be yoga, that could be Zen meditation, that could be just sitting in nature. Whatever it is for that particular person that brings them closer to that space, that divine space that only that individual and the universe share together, because that's sacred space, you know? that's space that I can't even get into.
That space you can't get into. So Lauri, to close out this first video, if there was one action that people could take that don't have direct access to you, but they're suffering from anxiety or depression or unfulfillment, and they're at that point where they're saying, I want change, there has to be more to life than this. What is a book that they can read or a step that they can take?
I feel that the easiest book out there, and a book that I really recommend a lot, is Louise Hay.
Someone else said that today.
You can heal your life, because I like it because you want to change, so that's the first step to changing. You take responsibility for how you feel, and then you create action plans to feel differently. And Louise Hay does a beautiful job of outlining that.
It's been such a pleasure to have you on. Stay tuned and we'll have this second video, but so where can people find you?
www.laurettedejulian.com.